like to talk to you a little bit about the process of mastery, because you know we are now beginning, formally, let me welcome you to this by the way, we are formally beginning the conversational hypnosis professional hypnotherapy certification program. If you can say that after 2 beers tonight, then you're a better person than I am. Now, I'm going to assume zero knowledge. I know some of you are very capable hypnotists already. Some of you had only the experience from the bonus day yesterday. My aim is to assume zero knowledge and start from scratch. The reason for this is several things. Number one, even if you're experienced, I'm going to be setting a different foundation for the other stuff to work off. So if you're experienced, have done things like this before, just go along with it. If you have no experience, then you just love this because it's starting from scratch, so you're great. We're going to start off like yesterday. We're going to start off a little bit slowly and start picking the pace up until some of you, by the end of today, will find your mind sort of beginning to melt a little bit. Others will find that tomorrow it's when your nostrils start bleeding. For sure, the day after that, everyone in this room will reach a state where it's like, what the hell is going on? Now, I want to warn you right now, formally, that I know it's going to happen and it's there for a reason. So it's going to happen, and if you find yourself going, is my brain still in there somewhere? Or if it feels like a glove's come on and just attached itself to your head somewhere, realize that it's there for a reason and you're in exactly the right place. Who would like to master hypnosis? Who would like to have the capacity to be a modern Erickson, for example? But you don't want to play with that? Well, there's something that needs to happen, and it's not just technical know-how, because let's face it, we can all pick up a book or buy a video and go, oh, yeah, I know the information. And some of you have probably read a lot, maybe even gone to a lot of courses. So what's preventing you from being an Erickson? Well, the process of mastery has several things going on for it. First of all, this is what we come to the world with. We know nothing, right? And this is true of hypnosis as in most other fields. Then somewhere along the lines, you find a field and someone like gives you a book on hypnosis or something like that, and there's all these groovy techniques and all this cool stuff and these things to remember, and it just fills your mind. And you have all these little technical details. You go, oh, no, you can't say try, because try implies failure. And oh, you know where I'm getting this, right? Now, unfortunately, most people get stuck here. This is kind of a mechanical stage. You're learning, and it's an important stage to go through, by the way. You're learning tricks, techniques. You're learning systems, structures. And those are important things because they're there to alter you in some way. But if you get stuck there, you'll never be a master. There comes a point where you've been doing all this stuff for long enough that it's kind of just internalized. It's just part of who you are. And you just end up feeling like you're doing nothing. I'm just having a chat to them, and I decided to do it this way or just say that, and it just felt like the right thing to say. Now, if you don't make the transition from here to there, you'll never be a great master of what you're doing. Why? Because hypnosis is more than just a technique or two struck together. If you think about anything that you're really good at, anyone really good at something, I'm not going to embarrass you by asking what it is, just think about things you're really good at, okay? When you're doing whatever it is that you're really good at, do you have to think about it? Are you sitting there choosing, well, I'm going to use this thing because, in 1997, Professor so-and-so did this thing here and all that rest? Or do you just go, this is the right thing to do? And that's the stage where I'm trying to get you guys to get to. We're going to start with nothing. We're going to give you a whole bunch of exercises, tricks, techniques, drills, principles, etc. But under the proviso that you promise me that when you leave here, you'll forget all about them. Because that way you'll be free to actually do your thing the way you do it. You see, all I'm doing, and all any training can do, is take something that nature has created as a whole and slice it into little slices of pie that you can digest bit at a time. But this isn't where the magic is. The magic is the whole thing. You can imagine trying to drive a car on a wedge. It wouldn't work very well. The whole thing fits together. And it'll fit together differently for each of you because you have different life experiences, and those are the things that are going to feed what you're doing and feed it and make it powerful. Does it make sense? Now what we'll be doing today, well actually for the rest of the week, is, as far as I can tell, or as far as I'm aware, probably the most sophisticated model for hypnotherapy that I've come across, because I made it. Now, the problem with sophistication is it can look very complex. It's like, oh my God, all these things are happening and I can't do it, right? I mean, think about it. How many thought it was going to be complex and difficult to do an instant induction, especially when it's like the handshake, like, sleep, what did you do? But when you think about it in terms of each little piece, you could get their attention. That was easy, right? You could induce a little startle or shock, so you can get the startle reflex going. That's easy, right? You can say the word sleep. Was it difficult to say sleep? Well, right now it might be for some of you. You can say the magic words, deeper, 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 that's right. So it's just a question of putting all the mechanics together at the same time, where you might find yourself being a little overloaded. It's because you haven't had to practice each individual piece as a unit, so it becomes natural. It's like, anyone here drive a car? Right? Do you remember the first time you ever sat in the car on the steering wheel and actually had a go at it? Was it easy? Like, I remember when I was doing it, finally, I got my provisional license. I get to get in the car with my instructor and do the whole thing. Actually, no, the first time I actually did it was, I think I was 12 years old, because I challenged my dad saying driving's easy, anyone can do it. So he went, all right. Took me to a car park by the river, the Thames, nice and empty, and said, off you go. Okay, okay, how do I start it? So first, after the bucking bronco stops, and I learned about the whole clutch thing, I'm starting to drive around and like just jumping around. I'm finally to get off a little pace, and I'm going at about maybe 5, maybe 10 miles an hour around this little car park, round and round. And I feel like I am the boy racer. I feel like I'm going at 120 miles an hour. Trees are zooming past me. I'm sweating on the steering wheel going, please don't crash. But now what do? Now we go on the freeway, I think you guys call it, and you're talking on the phone on one hand, smoking a cigarette in the other, feet are out the window, you know. Driving's become second nature to us, right? It's because initially, my conscious attention is on so many little pieces, my conscious mind can't handle it. So I feel overwhelmed, it feels complex, it feels difficult. But once you've done them enough times, and you relegate that task to unconsciousness, in other words, it becomes automatic, then you no longer think about each individual piece. You just do one unit. You just do one unit called driving. The rest just takes care of itself. It's just part of what it means to drive, right? Now, the same is true of hypnosis. Get attention, induce a shock, say the word sleep, continue to deepen after the event has happened. It's exactly the same process. So if you do it slowly enough, just like driving, it feels like you're going million miles an hour, but you get the whole thing done. And eventually, as you take each individual piece and you get really good at each individual piece, it becomes one unit for you. And when it's one unit for you, it becomes a natural behavior, it becomes easy. And then you have more units and more units. And those units start bleeding into something called an induction, or a whole process. Do you see how that starts to work? But that will never happen unless you're willing to relegate the little bits of behavior into unconsciousness. So you move beyond the technical detail. You get stuck on it. And sometimes you break some of these rules because it's safer to do that. You don't slam your brakes in the middle of the freeway just for the hell of it. But there are times when it's probably quite healthy to do that. You see what I mean? So every rule that you get at some point can and should be broken. Now, I want you to remember this thing here, because the path to mastery is really understanding that you're going to be practicing each of these pieces in order to put them together. Over the course of the next 6 days together, we're going to have a lot of these little pieces. You can have an experience of every little piece that it takes to be a masterful, exquisitely, scrumptiously elegant hypnotherapist. But what I can't do in those 6 days is give you enough practice so that each piece becomes automatic, because that takes time, that takes rehearsal. We'll give you enough so you know you can do it. But because we can't spend time on each individual piece until it becomes automatic, what's going to happen at some point is you'll overload. It's very simple. You'll go, oh my God, I'm trying to do all these pieces at once and I don't know what I'm doing. Right? That's okay. Seriously, it's okay. And the reason it's okay is, as long as you can break it down into each individual piece, you have something that you can work on until you've got it. So there's only one question you need to ask yourself as we go through each of the exercises over the next 6 days. And the question is this: do I know what to do in the next exercise? Do I know what the next piece is about? The question to ask yourself is not, what did I just do? I can't remember it. The question to ask yourself is not, how does it all fit together? The question is not, there's just so many things to do, I don't know where to begin. The only question for you to focus on, at least consciously, is, do I understand the exercise? Can I do this next piece? That's it. Now that frees you of a lot of responsibility. Because all you have to do is the next exercise. And that's it. Does that make sense to you guys? So, whatever your learning style used to be, whatever you're used to getting like big picture and then little picture, or getting all the things just right, would it be okay for you guys to just pause that way of doing things for the next 6 days? Just try out this. Just try out the little exercises. If nothing else, do them because they're fun. And they will be fun. And see how they come together. If they haven't come together by, say, the end of day 5, before we go into day 6 and the whole certification thing, then come up with me and ask me, well, I don't know what's going on here. I guarantee you 2 things. 2 things I guarantee you. The first thing is, you will reach overload somewhere in the next 3 days. Guaranteed. The second guarantee I'll give you is it will all come together by day 5, provided you're willing to go through all the exercises. Does that seem fair to you guys? You willing to play with me on this one? Very good. Now, in time, you're going to get a manual. I'm not going to hand them out today because I don't want you to be distracted by them today. They're going to contain all the exercises and all the core ideas and principles that we were talking about. So if you are the kind of person who'd rather just absorb the experience and just go with the flow, you don't need to take a single word of notes. However, this is adult learning, which means that if you'd rather take notes, if you think better by writing things on paper or by typing things in a computer or by going in the corridor and singing about it, knock yourselves out. In other words, do whatever you need to do to get the most out of what we're doing here. And rest assured that you're going to have a manual on time. And the reason for the manual really is so that when you go away from here, it's not for what you do in here. It's really so when you go away from here, that you can go through and go, oh, I remember these exercises. I had a little trouble with these points here, so I'll spend more time getting those smoothed out, becoming natural in those things. Does it make sense? So the challenge I'm going to ask you, I'm going to give you on the end of day 4 or beginning of day 5, is to go through the whole manual. You may actually want to go ahead of it, look at it ahead of time, that's up to you. But a more fun way of doing it is, you get the manual, you file it under bed, and on the end of day 4, maybe somewhere around day 5, you pull it out and you flick through it. And you'll be surprised at how everything that jumps out, you go, oh, I know this, oh, I know that. It's a really fun way of doing it. And I also recognize some of you will be too curious, in which case, hey, it's adult learning. You do whatever way works best for you.